From the UNC Hussman School of Journalism and Media, connecting Carolina's campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us for this special edition of Carolina Week. I'm Stephen Schlink. For the next half hour, we will get to know the two candidates vying for student body president. Each candidate will have 60 seconds for an opening statement. They will then have 60 seconds to answer their question, and at the end, each of you will have another 60 seconds for a closing statement. The moderator does reserve the right to ask a follow-up at any point during the debate. Both camps have agreed to these terms. We will begin with TJ. TJ, you have 60 seconds for your opening.
Over the last few days, a lot of people have asked me why I'm running for student body president. And to me, the truest answer is that since I got here at Carolina, one emotion has been constant: frustration. I was frustrated back in 2021 when I found out the university doesn't typically offer accommodations for students with autism a month after I was diagnosed. I was frustrated when I was a RA last year making $500 a month for a job that you don't get the clock out for, or even now making $10.30 an hour with no benefits or overtime. I was frustrated. I am frustrated every time I get an alert Carolina about another assault, or I hear stories about members of law enforcement using unsafe police tactics against members of marginalized communities. And I'm running for student body president because I'm tired of being frustrated. I know you are too.
All right. Chris, we now turn to you. You have 60 seconds.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christopher Everett, and I'm running for student body president because I want to create a Carolina for everyone. My platform, my policies, my identities are all about creating a Carolina that supports, protects, and values every single parts of our multifaceted identities. I'm a public policy major from Clayton, North Carolina, and I'm minoring in media and journalism. I've had many different roles within student government, the first being the executive assistant to the student body president, Reeves Mosley. In that role, I did many things, including implementing the Carolina Together testing program and implementing the James Lewis Cates Jr. Memorial to honor his life and legacy here at Carolina. I then served in the undergraduate senate, which was an amazing role where I was chair of the finance committee, and I now serve as the deputy chief of staff in the Van administration. And all those roles are very important as to why I'm here. But the real reason I'm here is because I know what it feels like to feel unseen on this campus. I've been there. I've spent the last 6 months learning from students and student voices. I'm here to share the podium and bring students to the table of our university.
The questions for this evening were compiled by the moderator. Neither candidate has seen any of the questions, and the first will go to Chris. As a note, viewer discretion is advised as this question touches on a difficult topic. Since December of last year, campus crime logs showed 2 incidents of Clary rape, 1 kidnapping, 8 instances of assault, and multiple electric scooter thefts. Both of you list student safety as part of your platform. So what are your plans to help ensure students are safe on and around campus? You have 60 seconds. Chris, we begin with you.
The most important way is to tie in student voices. I have served for many years now at Carolina for the same concern. And it's one big part of my policy is advocating for the expansion of the Safe Walk program to include locations on South Campus and expand the program in general, as well as the Safe Rides program to include Fridays, other locations, and extend hours across the weekend. Creating an accessible Carolina, creating a safe Carolina, something that is so important to me. So the big piece of it is creating and reinstituting the UNC Commission on Campus Equality and Student Equity. That's a board made up of student leaders from every single cultural organization on this campus. And in that role, we will tackle safety concerns on this campus. And that's all about building relationships with people at our university and within our community.
TJ, same question to you.
I would say that when I've talked to my peers about feeling unsafe at campus, there's been one thing that's been constant in their requests of me to have something to stand for. Sorry about that. And it's having surveillance cameras on the outside of residence dorms. I think that it's really important that we are able to, one, discourage people from committing crimes in and around our residence halls. And I think it's also important that we have evidence if these crimes do take place. The second thing that I want to do is institute a beeper safe ride sharing program like they have at App State and UNCW. I think that this would allow students to get rides from other students who were verified by the university, so then we can make it from point A to point B safely without having to walk on campus.
Awesome. Thank you both. Safety is obviously a big part of the student experience, but so is accessibility. Both of your platforms also include addressing accessibility around campus. And with issues like elevators continually breaking down in Granville, how would you address increased accessibility for Tar Heels all across campus? TJ, we begin with you.
So I want to first mention something that I talked about a little bit in my opening statement, and that in 2021, I was diagnosed with autism. And so during my time here at Carolina, I've been able to see that, one, you need a formal diagnosis in order to even start the conversation to receive accommodations here. And that's the first barrier that I want to tackle. And second, you have to continuously request accommodations from your professor every single semester. And I want to get rid of that program, because especially with students with ADHD, their disability surrounds like their inability to make deadlines, and they are faced with the same deadline every single semester. And the last part is that I want to make sure that every building on campus and the old well has ramps and is wheelchair accessible.
Wonderful. Chris, we'll send the same question over to you.
So I've had conversations with organizations and students since about September, I believe, and I've made it a goal of my campaign to tie in student voices in a way that doesn't monetize anyone's experience, but instead brings them to the table. And all of my policies, particularly about accessibility, have been informed by them. I've had so many different conversations, particularly with the Residence Hall Association, about the ways in which to make our campus and particularly our residence halls more accessible. The first being advocating for more first floor wheelchair accessible rooms. The accessibility resource offices have continued to promise those. Carolina Housing has continued to promise those. And so my goal is to build relationships with organizations like Campus Y, with RHA and other organizations to push Carolina Housing to implement these resources, in addition to implementing more surveillance footages outside of our residence halls as well. And that's on top of also implementing more floodlights within our residence halls. Those have been amazing tools to benefit the lives of students with disabilities across this campus. And those are ways I will bring accessibility to this university.
Well, we've got much more to cover in tonight's debate. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The question is, how do you define womanhood? The question is, what is affirmative action and do you support it? The question is, how have you experienced discrimination at UNC? What needs to change about the culture at UNC? So the question is, do you think that companies' support of Pride and Black History Month is performative?
Chris Everett told me to throw a full, so I did, and it was awesome.
Chris Everett told me to get sacks, so I did.
Slovis spun around and sacked.
Chris Everett told us to beat Duke, so we did, as we should.
My name is Chris Everett, and I'm telling you to vote for me for student body president. Go Heels.
Hey, what's happening?
Thanks for sticking with us for this special debate edition of Carolina Week. As student body president, you also have a seat on the UNC Board of Trustees as an ex officio member. So what are some things that you hope to work with the board to accomplish should you be selected as the next student body president? Chris, we will begin with you.
So thank you for the question. One big thing to me is to bring students to the table, which is why I've incorporated Share the Podium into my policy. So one large thing I want to advocate for is increasing the wages of our housekeepers across this campus. And that is a change that occurs at the General Assembly level, but building relationships at the BOT will allow me to build those relationships with the legislature to be in conversations about increasing those. In addition to advocating for more visibility for our graduate students on this campus, they bring in $5 billion to our university. The least that we can do is make sure they have a representative spot on the BOT and continue to advocate for more institutional changes, advocating for more institutionalism, multiculturalism across this campus in ways that are very important, implementing new centers across our campus. The Asian American Center, they have one working bathroom right now. Bringing all these concerns to the BOT to advocate for these accessibility concerns, advocate for these mental health concerns, advocate for the multiculturalism concerns. That's exactly what I would do on the BOT, ensuring that all of us have a place at Carolina and at this university that we call home.
TJ, same question over to you. You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, so one of the big things that I'm going to be advocating as a trustee member is adding another student trustee member. I think that it's very important that graduate students get their voices heard on the Board of Trustees, and especially when there are 3 trustee committee spots that are currently without any sort of student representation on them. And so that is something that I'm really going to focus as a student body president. The next thing is I want to make sure that we have a $15 minimum wage with yearly inflation increases for all student workers, whether they are graduate or undergraduate students alike.
On January 26th, the UNC Board of Trustees announced the creation of the School of Civic Life and Leadership. The Wall Street Journal published an article hours later touting it as a way to combat the university's, quote, liberal echo chamber. As a student and prospective member of the Board of Trustees, how would you handle the backlash the university is facing over the announcement? TJ, we begin with you. You have 60 seconds.
First of all, I want to say that I'm completely against the creation of the Civic Life and Leadership Department here at UNC. I think that is a blatant attack on the values of the members of the faculty and the members of the student body here at Carolina. I think that as student body president, I would make sure that the world knows that this is not something that Carolina wants, and this is simply and wholly a conservative agenda that's being pushed onto our school. And similarly how we made a statement supporting Silent Sam being taken down, I think the university and the student government needs to take a similar stance against the creation of the Civic Life and Leadership Department.
Chris, over to you with the same question.
I would really amplify student voices. There are so many students and activists, grassroots activists and organizations that have continued this fight for the liberalism agenda that the Wall Street Journal has claimed. All of that is literally just our student life and our leadership. I will continue to bring student voices into the limelight and ensure that their messages, their outrage, their guilt are all advocated for and shown to show that Carolina is an amazing university with amazing students, and any encroachment by the state legislature or any other parties won't be allowed at this university. And so just amplifying student voices that I'm standing on, that are behind me, that are behind Carolina for Everyone, is what I would do to ensure that all students have their voice heard about these decisions and build relationships with the BOT, again, and other institutions to ensure that although they weren't aware that this was happening, that there's some things that we can do to make sure that this does not happen again.
Another issue our campus is facing is housekeeper pay. Last October, housekeepers delivered a petition demanding a $5 an hour raise plus free parking. In December, university officials allotted a 90-cent an hour raise for housekeepers. How would you work with both the university and housekeepers to address this ongoing issue? Chris, we begin with you.
And that takes me back to the Residence Hall Association. They have done amazing work and are such a big piece of my platform and Carolina for Everyone. And in my personal life, I've built so many different relationships with individuals at the state legislature. So making use of those, making use of Representative Zach Hawkins from District 14. I used to be his intern. There's so many different ways and relationships that I've already made. In addition to that, allows me to support RHA and their things. And so wanting just to begin that conversation in general with the state legislature, because we can increase them at Carolina, we can increase them for every single housekeeper across the state, for everyone represented in a university UNC system.
TJ, over to you with the same question.
So I think first it's utilizing that Board of Trustees spot, and I think that puts me at like a unique position to be an advocate for the housekeepers that we have here on campus. And the next thing is I'm an activist. Like, I have worked with the Black Menaces over the last 8 months. And I know that with student grassroots support, we can get better pay for housekeepers. I think that this is a movement that should be run in parallel with the student workers student workers union that we have here on campus in order to get better pay for us. And I think that that is our best path to make sure that everyone here, a part of the Carolina family, is receiving an equal and fair pay.
Well, coming up, what qualifies each candidate for the office of student body president, and the candidates deliver their closing remarks. Stay with us.
Meet the scan, a simple procedure whose mission is to detect lung cancer early.
I'm here to save you.
But I feel fine.
That That's great, but you may still be at high risk for lung cancer.
Oh man, that's a new fence.
If you smoke, early detection could save your life. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
We've discussed safety and accessibility as well as goals for the university. Now, let's talk qualifications. Candidates, you each have 60 seconds to discuss what makes you uniquely qualified for the position of student body president. TJ, we begin with you.
I think what best qualifies me for the position of student body president is the fact that I've spent my entire Carolina career not as someone who's working in the administration, but rather as an advocate. You know, I think that the work that Chris has done as a part of the previous two administrations has been great, but it is in part contributing to the system that we're aiming to fix right now. And as I have an outside perspective, I think that my ability to, and my history of going out into the public and asking the questions that matter shows that I'm the best candidate for this role. And especially as a member of multiple marginalized communities, I provide a unique perspective that will allow me to uplift the most suppressed voices.
Chris, same question to you.
I've spent 3 years of my Carolina experience with good and bad and ugly. And it is true, I did come into Carolina for this position. But what's changed about me is when I resigned from the undergraduate senate, that was the first moment in my life where I lived my life as a student. So I'm here not as a career student leader, I'm here as a student, as an advocate, as a servant, as a vessel for your needs and your concerns. I've learned that for a while now. And so I think what really makes me different is I've had to learn how to advocate for an experience that isn't just mine. Because it's easy for me to dog on my experiences, to go to support students of my background. But to be student body president, one, you have to know how the institutions work. Two, you have to be able to show and represent an experience that isn't just yours, which is why all of my platform is built on that experience, which is why I met with student organizations since about September, UNC Hillel, BSM, LGBTQ Center, Undocumented Carolina. I met with them all, and they're all represented within my policy, and that way makes me different, because I'm a candidate for the people and by the people.
UNC is made up of many different student organizations. As student body president, you're the representative of the student body. So how do you plan to support the various student organizations should you be selected as the next student body president? Chris, we begin with you.
And so a big piece of my policy is actually having larger activations with organizations. So a big area of mine is undocumented students, protecting them, and international students. I've built relationships with Undocumented Carolina since about September. They were the second organization that I met with. And so first, they need resources, they need visibility, and they need funding. They were once funded by the Mellon Foundation. They give funds to students and organizations at different universities across this country. I've built those relationships, and so each month we'd partner with an organization, the first being Undocumented Carolina for a town hall, and then using the rest of my administration and all the might I have to advocate for their funding, to advocate for their support, and advocate for their visibility. I would do this with every single organization on this campus, in addition to implementing, again, the Campus Commission for Campus Equality and Student Equity. That provides students and organizations with a voice, regardless of your background, of who you are, who you came from. That is what my campaign is about. That is what Carolina for Everyone is about, and that is what sharing the podium is about. And that's what I would do as student body president.
TJ, same question to you. You have 60 seconds.
So I think one of the biggest issues that we have is that there is a very large disconnect between the student body and student organizations, particularly student leaders within them. And I think that the solution to this is creating a new elected position within clubs called ambassadors. These ambassadors would serve as partners directly with a UNC senator, and this would allow clubs to effectively lobby their interests with the student government to make sure that there's a direct path, not just to me, but to the undergraduate student government as a whole. And I think, actually, yeah, I think that that would continue to amplify student voices.
Well, every student body president leaves some sort of legacy. If you were elected, what would you want your legacy to be? TJ, we'll start with you.
I think that I want my legacy at Carolina to be one that changed the culture at Carolina, one that changed the way that we accomplish our goals. I think that we need to be far less reliant on our student government in order to enact the change that we want to see, because most people don't really care about the work that student government does. And I want people to care. And I think that this starts with a partnership with the student government, and me as student body president going out into campus every single week, asking questions so then I can better lead from the executive branch.
Chris, what type of legacy would you want to leave?
My biggest goal in going into all this was wanting everyone to feel seen by Carolina for Everyone. I've spent so much of my time feeling so unseen, so unheard because of my different identities, because of my experiences. I wanted to build something that everyone can see themselves in. And so I've been so overwhelmed by the love and support. And I just really want to usher in a new Carolina built on inclusion and representation, which is why I'm advocating for the creation of an Asian American Studies program, why I'm hoping to combat anti-Semitism on campus. There's so many different ways that I'm advocating for Carolina students of all backgrounds, but I really want to make sure that everyone feels represented and that student first politics are a thing at this university, because for so long they haven't been. You had students like me that were forced to leave student government because we outgrew the space that we were in. I don't want a student government like that anymore. I want a new thing where we're all empowered to be student leaders, to be servants, and to grow into who we are, regardless of our background, regardless of whatever position we're in. And so my biggest thing was ensure that everyone feels represented by Carolina for Everyone. I'm even continuing these conversations now. So I'm so grateful to even be here. And yeah.
Well, thank you both. We've now reached the end of our questions for the evening. Each candidate now has 60 seconds for their closing remarks. Chris, we'll begin with you.
I think I couldn't leave here tonight without really emphasizing that student voices are part of my campaign. I met with countless organizations, and every single policy I've had, Carolina for Everyone, Share the Podium, they were all formed and created based on student concerns. Everything in my policy booklet is all about that. And so I really just want to show that I'm standing beside and on the backs of student advocates, organizations, leaders across this campus, and just the normal students. And that's what I'm running as a student wanting to serve in this role with the experience, with the knowledge of the institutions, and with the heart to do it. And that's what it takes to be an effective student leader, and I'm looking forward to it.
TJ, over to you.
I think that the question that you asked about legacy is really interesting to me, because it's not something that I've really thought about. Because for me, it's not about associating any accomplishment that I've done as student body president with my name. It's about creating a better system for everyone here at Carolina. And I think that my platform empowers students to not only work with me, but to have the agency to work with them, with each other, in order to create that better system. I think that today I've shown you that I am a candidate who is willing to listen and willing to ask questions. And yeah, I'm just gonna.
Well, thanks to both of you for joining us tonight, and thanks to you at home for spending your evening getting to know these candidates. We wish both of you the best of luck in next week's election. And speaking of next week's election, tune in to Carolina Week next Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. for the election results. Thanks for watching Carolina Week's first ever live debate. From all of us here in the studio, good night.